Welcome back to the GSMC College Football Podcast on this Wednesday, April 30th. I had to check if it was Wednesday. Forgot the day for a sec. Just talked a little bit about SEC playoff contenders, what could potentially happen there. Going to talk a little bit about Bill Belichick now, but before I get into that, I just want to remind everyone that this show is all about you. We want to make it as interactive, as exciting as possible, and we would love to hear your comments, questions, opinions, hot takes, insights, all of that. One easy way to do that is to use the Super Chat feature. To do that, you click the $ in the bottom of the chat box to send in your comment question there. This ensures that your message gets on the air. It's also just a great way to support our show, support what we're trying to do here at GSMC. We cannot do what we do without your ongoing support, and we're so grateful to have all y'all as a part of our community here. So I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Bill Belichick right now. So the big thing here, it came out today. So on February 28th, a bunch of media outlets, including The Athletic, some other big ones, they reported that North Carolina's football program and Bill Belichick were expected to be featured on this season of Hard Knocks. Kind of sounded like the NFL didn't really have a team that they wanted to feature this year. But the deal fell apart days later, shortly before a public announcement was going to be made. So Jordon Hudson, Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend, she played an instrumental role, apparently, in stopping this production, and a lot of it was related to her request to be heavily involved in the project, according to multiple sources throughout the industry that were briefed on these negotiations. All these sources spoke on anonymity just because they were not authorized to speak publicly, but this is Jordon Hudson. This has been a continuing trend for North Carolina. In December of 24, she sent an email to North Carolina officials identifying herself as the chief operating officer of Belichick Productions. Interesting note, Athletic could not find any company registered under that name in Massachusetts or anywhere throughout the country, any other state. So according to documents that were obtained by The Athletic, NFL Films was scheduled to start filming on March 1st as part of a 2-month stint on campus that would go behind the scenes into Bill Belichick and how he's trying to build that UNC program. But instead, on March 3rd, Jessica Body, NFL's VP of Commercial Operations Business Affairs, she sent an email to North Carolina's council confirming that showmakers will not proceed with the production of the Belichick project. So a lot of this, it seems like, is tied back to Jordon Hudson and kind of what's going on there. She's had an unofficial role, like I said, since his hiring in December, including being copied on some emails at Bill Belichick's request. There were screenshots that came out of him sending an email to like Mike Lombardi, the general manager of the program, saying, hey, can you CC Jordon on any future emails? And this has been reported in outlets. Jordon Hudson also has a number of different entities that she has listed under her name, including a multi-platform media project that was called Chapel Bill LLC, and then also most recently her involvement in the promotion of Belichick's new book. That's kind of drawn some attention. I'm going to dive into that in a minute, but back to the Hard Knocks. So the decision for NFL Films to back out, it meant that North Carolina lost out on $200,000 of facility fees and also more in just terms of exposure. And this is the same guy that told radio reporters in 2017 that he, quote, wasn't on Snapface and all that, and that he's not really too worried about what they put on InstaChat when they were talking about Antonio Brown. And then going back to that CBS interview on Sunday, so he had to sit down, and there wasn't anything really big. He was asked about why he left out Robert Kraft's comments, and that was probably going to be the biggest story. But then the follow-up question was just, Bill, how did you and Jordon meet? And he was about to ask, didn't have the chance to answer. Jordon Hudson's off camera, and you can hear her saying, "We're not talking about this," in the background. Really awkward moment because it was a basic question. And if Belichick had answered, this was going to be a non-story. It'd be like, oh, okay. And she's also documented that they met on a plane ride before. So just a basic answer would have been a non-story. But she cut him off. She said, "We're not talking about this." And it kind of just put a big spotlight on why would you even cut him off there, you know? A day after the interview aired, TMZ also published a story that said, they quoted, alleged there were numerous other instances of Hudson kind of butting in during the interview, and they said that she had even walked out of the interview at one point and delayed it for about a half an hour. And then also, yesterday, the day before this report kind of came out, Hudson posted a screenshot of an April 10th email from Bill Belichick to her Instagram account, and also the comment was saying she promised a full statement to be released later, but in the email, Belichick is really going off about how this interview is promoting a book, detailing a time he, quote, effed up as the Patriots coach. But I just think this whole situation's really interesting. Obviously, Bill Belichick has been an NFL head coach for how many years? Obviously knows how to deal with the media, is infamous for kind of his responses to the media, right? You look at when they were, I forget who they had played, but they were asking him all these questions, and he just goes, "We're on to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati," right? And this is something that he's done throughout his career of decades of being an NFL head coach, an NFL assistant. Honestly, he's never really kind of messed around with the media, but it seems like he's trying to change his strategy, change his outlook. He's never really been one to kind of hold his tongue, hold his words, and always really blunt, always pretty honest in his answers. But it kind of seems as if there's an image change going on here around Bill Belichick. Seems as if they're trying to use more media, and I'm really curious as to what Jordon Hudson's role in all of this is. I think that's a huge factor of what's going on here. I'm also kind of surprised that Bill Belichick actually wanted Hard Knocks at North Carolina. That seems a little interesting to me because it kind of goes against what he's always been about, right? This has been a guy that's never been super hospitable to media, always kind of been trying to stay out of the spotlight, even though, you know, when you're part of one of the greatest dynasties ever, kind of hard to stay out of the spotlight. But a guy that knows how to kind of deal with this and get around in questions. I just think it's interesting, too, that she seems to almost be controlling or his answers or kind of directing what he can say. Because you look at that question of how did you meet, right? That's a basic question, you know. Any couple gets asked that pretty much all the time. And it's something that he could have given just a basic answer and go, "Oh yeah, we met on a plane ride." And it wouldn't be a big deal, not at all. But why is she coming in and saying, "Oh, we can't talk about this." And you know, then he didn't. He cut himself off. I just think that's kind of interesting that he's almost being screened, it seems like. And her role, it seems to be, is really, really influential to what Bill Belichick's doing. I just think the whole situation's kind of interesting. I wonder if it's more of just because of the college landscape, of you're dealing with younger kids, could he trying to change his strategy a little bit to kind of relate more to 18, 19-year-olds compared to grown men in the NFL? Is that a possibility of why this is happening? I think that's certainly a potential answer. I just think the whole situation, though, is kind of awkward because this is not the Bill Belichick we know. This is something different, it feels like. And will that kind of difference actually help him at UNC? I'm not really sure. I think it'll be something to certainly kind of monitor just how much her influence shows throughout the time and kind of how he responds to the media, how he interacts throughout post-game interviews, all of that throughout this upcoming year. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch. Does he kind of change up how he's always been known, or will this kind of be a reverting back to the old Bill Belichick? So we're going to take another short break on our show right now. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about why the state of Florida, despite its talent-rich recruiting, why are they not producing blue-chip quarterback recruits? We're going to dive into that in a little bit, but we'll be back on the GSMC College Football Podcast.